meso avo anogara akafurika, nzeve dzavo dzinogara dzakavhurika, zvese connected musharukwa, kamba kwevanogaya mari, meso avo anogara akafurika, nzeve dzavo dzinogara dzakavhurika, zvese connected musharukwa, kamba kwevanogaya mari, ndakubvunza mamuona.
24 August 2023, and today I am very happy to be presenting one of the most interesting programs relating to the Zimbabwe 2023 elections, and I want to give you the numbers. I don't want you to have a doubt about what is going on. And I apologize for coming a bit early. You know that I was up the whole night, last night. And I'm getting a bit tired. So I know tomorrow will be a very long night also. And this whole week, it's going to be very long. So most of you don't understand what I'm saying when I'm explaining to you that Chamisa is leading in this election on the presidential. So I want to unpack it for you in terms of the numbers. And I want to explain to you what is happening in Zimbabwe. So Dr. Fedez Mtere has joined me. So I'm going to keep him in the background for a while I unpack this. Then I'm going to bring him in here to finalize. So Doctor, I'm seeing you, but I'll bring you back after about 5 minutes. So many people don't understand why I say Nelson Chamisa is leading and is going to win this election. So I want to unpack for you the numbers. But let's talk about what has happened today. What has happened today is that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has come out and said they are not going to release the results for the next 5 days. That's what they say. They have up to 5 days, which doesn't make sense because it's only 12,300 polling stations. If they really wanted, they could just get all the people at ZEC and give each person 10 polling stations to add up, and they'll have the answer by the end of the day. So I want to explain to you why ZEC is not giving you the numbers. The reason why ZEC is not giving you the numbers is because something drastic has happened, and that is because the numbers for President Mnangagwa and the numbers for ZANU-PF, there's a big disparity. And I'll show you where the disparity is coming from. I'll show you numbers, an example of the numbers. So Chamisa is actually on the lead right now, very big lead. And if you look at international organizations that do tallying, Chamisa is now above 50%, and President Mnangagwa has fallen below 50%. And I think if I get some opportunity here, I'll show you. So let's start with what ZEC has done. They've said they're not going to show you the numbers for at least 5 days. They've shown you the numbers for some places. And ZANU-PF has been sending fake numbers. But there's one thing that is very specific. They've been sending fake numbers about the parliamentary results, but they've not been sending any numbers about the presidential. And there's a reason. So let's start by that. There is a big difference between President Mnangagwa, his numbers, and Chamisa, his numbers. So what happens is Chamisa is getting more votes, and President Mnangagwa is getting less votes. So it multiplies, and that's what I'm trying to explain to guys. And I'll show you this. However, CCC guys, they've got one weakness, and this is why ZANU-PF and ZEC are waiting. They want to see what numbers CCC has got. They know that CCC is tabulating, but they don't know what numbers these guys have got. And I know those numbers because Freeman Chari just tweeted the numbers. He just told ZANU-PF how many numbers they've got. If you go to Freeman Chari's Twitter, he just said they've got 7,800 V11s. They are supposed to have 12,300 or more V11s. So ZANU-PF doesn't know which V11 CCC does not have. This is where the problem is. Because if they wanted to do anything, if anyone wanted to do anything, they do not know which way to play tricks, because they don't know who has sent what to V11s. Right. Now, let's go to the problem with CCC. And you must mark this problem. This is where Chamisa is going to have problems. The problem with people in CCC is that they love conspiracy theories. So they easily get despondent, because when they hear something, they believe it. If you tell them in Zuba there's 50,000 people who voted, they'll immediately believe it. And by the time Chamisa wants to galvanize his people, he can't, because they've believed this. So today, when ZANU-PF started sending out fake numbers, the excited CCC guys lost all their spirit, because they believe everything. They don't have conviction that Chamisa is won. And you need to have conviction that Chamisa has won the election. And Chamisa has won the election. He's got more votes than President Mnangagwa. So mark the things I've said. President Mnangagwa has got less votes than ZANU-PF. He's got less votes than Chamisa. And ZANU-PF is waiting to see what CC has got. And then they'll make a plan. I see someone saying Boramsan. I think it was something like that, something of that nature, where people voted more for the party than they voted for President Mnangagwa. So let's now go to some numbers. I don't want to take too long here. I want Dr. Mtenere to come here and give us his views. So I want to share with you a screen. And it's one polling station. I want to show you what has happened and why it's such a big problem for President Mnangagwa. So if you go into, let's look here. Let's look at this polling station. Right. I think this polling station has got some people here. I don't know if my vision is bad or what, but there are some people on this V11, right? And I'm sorry, I know you can't see this. It's so small. It's a screenshot that I got from a guy. So what has happened is that on the left is presidential. This guy has done a good job. And then at the center, there's National Assembly. And then at the end, there's local authority, right? So if you look at the first day, there's Chamisa. Chamisa has got 104 votes. So follow what I'm saying here. And then CCC as a party, they've got 92. So Chamisa has got 11 or 12 votes more than the party. However, if you go to President Mnangagwa, he's got 323 votes. And his party has got 339 votes. So this is what has happened. Chamisa got more votes than the party, which is 10. And President Mnangagwa got less votes than the party, which is 25. So 25 plus 10 is 35. What this means is that if you go down all this line, this is what has happened. In each and every line, President Mnangagwa has gotten less votes than the party. In each and every line, Chamisa has gotten more votes than the CCC. So some people who were supposed to vote for President Mnangagwa, they have gone and voted for Chamisa. So President Mnangagwa has been beaten both sides. Chamisa got his votes, and then more people voted for Chamisa. It's not just like someone went in the ballot and didn't vote for Chamisa. It's different. He took the votes that were supposed to go to President Mnangagwa, and this multiplied. So this is just one polling station, in fact, one ward. If we were going to, sorry, let me stop there, the sharing. If we were going to go to, let's say, 12,000 polling stations, and in this particular piece of paper that I showed you, Chamisa has got 500 votes more than President Mnangagwa, if you look here. So what this means is Chamisa, he gets more and more and more votes. Now this is all the little polling stations, add them up together, he gets 500, then you multiply, it becomes more and more. And I don't know how bad it is in the cities. I don't know how bad it is in other areas. This is where President Mnangagwa has gotten less votes than Chamisa, and that is how Chamisa is going to win the election without the party winning. So CCC does not have enough votes in parliament. They don't have the majority. So Chamisa is going to end up with more votes than President Mnangagwa, but ZANU-PF is going to end up with more votes than President Mnangagwa. So ZANU-PF and Chamisa, they're all going to have more votes than President Mnangagwa. Right, Doc, how are you, Doc? And good evening to you.
I'm very well, Gambakwe. How are you? And
okay,
very
what
good
do you think
evening to
about
all
what I
our
just
viewers.
said? Does it make sense to you?
Oh, yes, Gambakwe, it does make sense. In fact, I was just looking at what you were putting up right now. Remember, this is exactly what we said when we were making an analysis of the Afrobarometer survey that was done recently in June, July. And then I brought in the Elite Africa research, in which there was a comparison between President Mnangagwa's popularity within ZANU-PF, comparing with ZANU-PF, and at all times, President Mnangagwa enjoyed, in the negative sense, 2.7 negativity below his party. He was always unpopular than his party. On the other hand, Advocate Nelson Chamisa was put to be having more than 2.8% favorability rate ahead of even the Triple C. So you'd see that Advocate Nelson Chamisa is a candidate himself, is from the researches that are there, has been quite very popular. And this is what is coming out of an election. So what you are saying totally makes sense, Gambakwe. But no doubt, Gambakwe, as we continue, this election is falling far short of our expectations. In fact, we underestimated even how the Mnangagwa regime or the current ZANU-PF regime would go all the way to undermine real electoral processes. In fact, when we were, when all these issues about the delimitation report came up, the controversies, when the controversies about the voters' roll came up, of course, we just thought, oh, this is the usual, actions by ZANU-PF. But to think that on election day, so many polling stations almost went without exercising their right to vote because there were no ballot papers, and because they were saying, there were short ballot papers there, or whatever the reasons were. It is beyond incompetence. It is beyond shoddiness. It is simply beyond an inability by a state to fulfill its constitutional obligations, and we are still shocked how this will go down. And by any measure or standard, this election is not free. It is not fair. It is not, particularly, it doesn't pass the credibility test. And I hope that the SADC observer mission, which is the most, actually, that is the most also credible body that can say something which can be listened to. And I hope they have taken note of this and all other observations, because honestly, what we are seeing is an unconstitutional process. It's what, this ZANU-PF regime has always suffered from, what we called a festival of illegalities. And to come to think that on election day, they can, slump this law as to failing to fulfill that constitutional duty. For me, I am totally gobsmacked. But anyway, we expected that this Mnangagwa regime can do anything anyway.
Okay, Doc, I want us to wrap this up very, very quickly. We had a very late night, and you and me are extremely tired. I want to conclude And I want to give a summary of what I just said. And then I want you to give us your view of what is going to happen next. So let me summarize to the guys who were not here when I started. Chamisa is winning against President Mnangagwa. And ZANU-PF is getting more votes than President Mnangagwa. This is why ZEC is not yet announcing the results. They are not announcing the results because they don't know what Chamisa has got or has got as V11s. So it's very hard to do anything. But because CCC guys love conspiracies, they are despondent now. So the whole CCC following, they don't know what to do because they love conspiracy, and ZANU-PF knows that. So they keep sending fake stories. So let me give you an example of a fake story. I think I saw a comment here. So here, let's say I've got this thing here, which says Chamisa has got 8,200 and ED has got 15,300 or something like this. ZANU-PF has 141 seats and CCC has 69. Someone knows very well that ZANU-PF is not Chamisa, is not Mnangagwa, and Chamisa is not CCC. So when you go into the votes, Chamisa's votes are Chamisa's votes. He's going to win because he takes votes from President Mnangagwa, and President Mnangagwa gets less votes than his party. However, CCC, they need to get all those V11s. Right now, they only have 7,800. They've tweeted it in public. It's not a secret thing. If you go to Freeman Chari's Twitter, they've said it. The only advantage they have is that ZANU-PF doesn't know which V11s they've got and which ones they don't. That's all. But Chamisa himself has done very, very well. From my estimation here, for each constituency, Chamisa has gotten even up to 1,000 votes, more than President Mnangagwa. In some cases, it will be possible. Because just here where we're looking, he has more than 500 in that particular constituency. So if you look at places like Harare, you don't know what is happening there. In Bulawayo, maybe someone is there. Half of the people have voted for ZANU-PF, but they've gone on to vote for Chamisa. Hence, you haven't seen ZANU-PF tweeting the presidential results. Where have you seen ZANU-PF tweeting presidential results today? All you see them doing is tweet the parliamentary results. They are not tweeting the presidential results for a reason. So that's what I wanted to say. So CCC guys, they must stop the conspiracies. They must stop loving conspiracies. They must all be chasing those V11s. So what Chamisa should do now is get all his guys. Every MP who contested must send that V11 for every polling station so that they have all the polling stations that the V11s, the 12,300 or so that they need. That is what I wanted to say, Doc. Please wrap up for us. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
No, thank you very much, Gambakwe. In fact, what is unfolding in front of us is what Gambakwe, me and you have been talking about, especially in the past a few weeks towards this very election, that the surveys, we looked at the surveys, what they were pointing to, that they were pointing to a win by Advocate Nelson Chamisa. But we also pointed out that it's not going to be an easy victory. And you can see that the investment by ZANU-PF in everything they are doing to make sure that that vote is undermined. It clearly shows that what we have always been saying is true. Look, this afternoon, was it yesterday evening, the arrest of Zesni and ERC people who are in the civic society doing their collection of data and tabulating it. You can see that there is fear there that they are going to get those statistics right. And I think your analysis, Gambakwe, is very right when you say when you actually say that statistically it is already known that the Triple C presidential candidate, Advocate Nelson Chamisa, is really in the front runner here, and you can see, and even from George Charamba, we saw in his Twitter saying that what they were trying to scuttle is is a plan by the CCC to quickly announce, according to their tabulation, what the results would be. So yes, again, you look at the attempt to, not even the attempt, but a process we have seen of suppressing the urban voter voting by way of delaying to open the polling stations, by way of making sure that others, people sleep at the polling booths. That alone will show you that it was an attempt to make sure that they dilute or they try as much as possible to suppress that urban vote, where the CCC is known to have a lot of support. So it is definitely a sign for us that if ZANU-PF is doing all this, then they know where it is going. We saw those little tables, exit poll tables by FAS, at all the polling stations. Once again, why is ZANU-PF all out going to do all that stuff, knowing very well that they are observers? It means that they know that they are on the road to losing, and all they were trying is probably to reduce the loss. But yeah, I think the horses have already bolted, and the people of Zimbabwe have come out in their numbers. But what we can only do right now is to patiently wait for the ZEC to give us their numbers, and I think it will be unhelpful for them to continue to hold those results, rather than to try and gradually release them, so that they release the tension. Because right now, all it feeds into, as they keep holding on to those results, is that it feeds into the tension. It feeds into the tension, and you don't know when that tension explodes. And I hope someone would whisper to these people that if you want to maintain peace and stability in the country, and because this is a process which sometimes it becomes very dangerous, they have to start a process of releasing those results. After all, it's an electoral competition. One wins, one loses, and you can't want to win always. And Advocate Nelson Chamisa, I think, is the most sellable candidate here. We have always said President Mnangagwa is unelectable. No one could follow his electoral message ever since the campaign trail started. They failed to come up with a manifesto, and all they have been saying to us is that the manifesto is the work that we are doing. But what work are they doing? We have always said what they are saying is work they are doing is simply rehabilitation work, which they should have been doing. It's rehabilitation of Smith's infrastructure. What new infrastructure is there that President Mnangagwa can really say they have done? I think they have failed on that. They've made many promises in 2018, and this is judgment time for President Mnangagwa. When he promised electricity, when he promised young people jobs, and we still have more than 90% unemployment rate, when he promised that our currency would be stabilized, and yet today Zimbabwe's currency is the laughing stock, if not the worst in the world. He has failed to deliver on that. He has failed to deliver on fighting corruption. Remember, when he came in, he said he would fight corruption. At some point, he said he would release names of companies that were corrupt. Well, we never saw anything happening in that. In fact, they have been involved more in corruption, the gold mafia being a case in point. So many promises that they made. They promised that they would engage and re-engage with the international community. But today, Zimbabwe is more ostracized, even worse than it was under President Mugabe. So they must understand that the voter today who understands issues is simply punishing them for what they have failed to do, and for them to force themselves to continue another 5 years. Another 5 years of what? Of more plunder, of more economic crisis. That doesn't help. So this is actually a new eon, a new era of a new dawn, a proper new dispensation in which things are supposed to change. And I think we maintain, Gambakwe, that Advocate Nelson Chamisa is on his road to victory. He's on his road right now. I think he should be in the process of thinking what he should do in the next 100 days, according to the promise in his manifesto, which was well crafted, by the way. Thank you very much, Gambako.
All right. Thank you very much, Doc. And before we go, I just want to make a special mention of the loss of Mthuli Ncube, Scott, Sandra Ndebele. I think Modi, he lost.
Muliswa as well.
Muliswa. Right. Chamisa is extremely popular. The Chamisa effect is stunning to these guys, and they don't understand. I think that's why the CC guys don't understand how popular Chamisa is. He is going to take this just because of his popularity. He's carrying this election for the party. So that is the reality here. He carried the election for, if you look in Scott's area, the work that Scott did there, and the work that Mthuli did there, only Chamisa's charisma made those guys win. And the guys were unknown. They were winning because of Chamisa. And this, the same effect is going to slap President Mnangagwa right now, as we're seeing here, at a bigger scale. The numbers, the difference is going to surprise people who are counting to say, how can the party get so much and President Mnangagwa get so much? I think that's where they are now. And ZEC, the actual ZEC, the people who are counting the votes, they know these facts, and hence this delay in announcing the results.
Yeah, that is very true, Gambako, what you are saying. And like you mentioned the other time, if anything, whether you call it the Boram Sango effect, is at a bigger scale now. But remember, Triple C also had what they called the Burumango strategy, and that is exactly what has worked in Mavuku. If the audios that we had today are anything to go by, you could hear them mourning and crying over the fact that people were coming to their rallies and consuming whatever they were being given there, only to turn against them during the election. And I think that also has happened in Marondera. We have seen that. So those two strategies combined together, the Boram Sango driven within ZANU-PF itself, has led to this. And the Burumango strategy orchestrated by the Triple C itself, because they realized that, trying to go against, toe for toe, shoulder to shoulder with ZANU-PF is difficult. Just join them, wear their t-shirts, be at their rallies, but on voting day, just vote where you want to do. It really worked. And I think, like you're rightly saying, the only electable candidate in this election is Advocate Nelson Chamisa. I think he has been the only candidate with the clarity of what he intends to do. But besides that, him as a person, and you rightly say that him as a person with his charisma, and he has really carried the party. And in the next few days, probably by Monday, we will see the announcement of a new president of Zimbabwe, in Advocate Nelson Chamisa.
Let's talk about that another day.
Yeah,
I'm not taking that statement you just said now. I'm not taking it for granted. That's the next thing we need to discuss. There's a lot of questions here about what will happen to Chamisa now that he's got more votes than President Mnangagwa, but he's got the parliament, which is dominated by ZANU-PF. I think let's not continue now. Let's bring this to an end. But tomorrow we'll be back. Let's see what ZEC does. ZEC, they've got the capacity to count those votes like this, like if they want.
Yeah.
But they're not doing it for a reason. And let's see what they're going to do. As I said, Chamisa's guys, just sit back and watch. Keep compiling your V11s. You'll see what is going to happen. Thank you very much, Doc, and thank you very much to everybody.
Good night, Gambako. Good night to the viewers.
Kuno aho pano mamu wanna get it nice. I know Buddha meso, I know Buddha tebe, I know kaya marigi. Burungere.com usasaire anogaya mari
Kambakwe uyo anotara mari anogaya mari garai mamunzwa pane nyaya pano zvamunoda kunzwa zvinotaurwa pano madiko kumunzwa mugovane.com Kambakwe vanogaya mari vanotara mari vanoziya mari Kambakwe vanotaura feya kuti pamberi zvichafamba sei vanhu